Hello, everyone, and welcome to our February Webinar Wednesday. Our speaker today is Kathy Sianis, and she is the Senior Vice President of Client Success and Partnership at Posh. Kathy helps financial institutions leverage technology to enhance customer experience as well as operational efficiency. And with that, Kathy, you can take it from here.
Thank you, Amanda. I really appreciate you having us here. So long story short, Kathy Sianis, I've been at Posh for over 4 years. I come from a CXO role at a credit union, grew up in the credit union space. I think I did go to the bank side for a short couple of years in my career, but mostly all in credit unions, lending, contact center, deposit operations, digital, and so forth. So I really do love this industry. I have a passion for it, the credit union movement. I think I belong to three. I'm also on an audit committee board for a credit union. So again, very passionate about this industry specific. So I know I'm in excellent company. So let's talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk about practical approaches to streamlining operations, reduce friction, and strengthen member and employee engagement. I am amazed at how far in the 4 years I've been in the fintech side now, serving credit unions and banks, how far AI has come. And just as we see continuous technology releasing and what we can build and deploy and how to rethink about maybe where you start. Why does this conversation matter now? I mean, why is it so important? We know member expectations have changed. I remember reporting to my last CEO at a credit union said, we want to be a market disruptor. Well, what does that take to be a disruptor, right? We know we need to be convenient. We need to make it easy. And there are some precedents being set by Amazon, Apple. I even think of our friends, and I can't believe if you haven't used them, who hasn't ordered online? Who hasn't ordered from Amazon? I will be in a grocery store and I'll go online and look to see what the price is at Amazon. I bet other folks have done that as well. So there is a lot of interactions, type of the way we can easily do business, making it frictionless. That's changing the way we need to think. We also know that it's hard to hire. I'm hiring here as well. I've had 400 employees in my org, trying to find the right contact center agents, the front line. It's not easy, right? And just the time to scale them, which requires, a lot of hands-on resources. And we really do face burnout. And that's something we just have to really consider. It's not easy to be a contact center agent. And then margins are tightening, right? Efficiency does matter. So I can look at margins differently. I can look at efficiency gains, but I can also look at growth. How can I spend more time spent with a member to talk about other products and services? Do they know what I have to offer? So the more efficient I am, the more time I can give back for conversations. AI is no longer an experiment. It's now a foundational capability. AI actively handles member interactions, automating workflows, supporting agents in real time, and driving measurable efficiency gains. So that's something that we have proven over and over again. Here at Posh, we have over 100, clients using different sorts of AI. So, and we have case studies and we have stories. So it is real. So it's not something organizations test on the side anymore. It's really a core objective. And we're going to talk about how to think about that as we go through this. So let's talk about the biggest AI misconceptions in credit unions. Really, let's think about how it can help, the reality of AI. I mean, if we just put it in a few bullet points, the most high level ones, what are those? Let's talk about, not replacing people, but really enhancing and partnering with our people on delivering to our end users. Think about creating less wait time. How many of us have time to wait? I have hardly time to make a doctor's appointment. Let's talk about fewer handoffs. How are we waiting to hand off a call, or how are we getting from one place to the other? How many times have you ever called and had to be transferred? Can you get help 24/7 when you're available? And really, how do we give back time for higher value conversations? Do we want our folks spending time talking about balance, the last check that cleared? How to make a payment. We know we have automated systems for that. So how do we direct and change that behavior so that our folks have more time to talk about the complex? How do I learn that you offer mortgages, that you have the best credit card rewards in town? How do I get that information available and upfront? So let's talk about how strategic AI actually, what that actually means and how to think about that. So to really be thinking about where you start and and what that means is understanding your core outcomes. What are you trying to accomplish with AI? Now, I've heard folks say that boards have said we need to get on the AI wagon, but really the most important piece is what business outcomes are you looking for? So let's strategic AI focus on that specifically, business outcomes. And then we're talking about member facing and employee facing value. Let's talk about that strategically. And then governance. Strategic AI focuses on governance, compliance, and how to trust the design of that, and measurable impacts. So again, strategic AI addresses all four of these components. It really is going to be talking about removing friction, lowering costs, and really, how do we improve the experience? That's being strategic. Not what technology should we just deploy or what are all of our competitors doing, even though I think we need to understand, are we staying up with competitors? But really, what friction are we removing? What are we solving for? That is being strategic as we think about AI, which is really important. AI creates immediate value. I know I, again, talked about I have many stories I can share. I can connect references. Oftentimes, I just did a webinar with two bankers who were seeing results quickly, addressing a lot of these strategic comments and topics particularly. But let's think about where it creates value right away. Think about, creating call containment. How long does somebody have to wait in your queue? How many calls do you have abandoned? How frustrated is your staff watching all the calls that are still pending? I mean, my entire team could see them. And then, does everybody get to the right place? What if I could just intelligently route calls and I take that work off of the caller? What would that do? Could you imagine the value there? And then, how many of are you using an overflow or after hours provider? I think the cost per minute could be $1.60. And then how many of those calls are actually resolved versus back at your team anyways? How hard it is to authenticate to self-serve. What if I could call anytime and access my account? We have not changed people from calling. Not all callers have moved, unfortunately, to online banking. And then really, how do we enable our employees? What would that look like? So if I want the more complex calls to go to employees, how do we enable them to feel confident, feel like they truly are the trusted advisors they want? Employees come to work wanting to do the best job that they can at the end of the day. I wonder how many of us have called that are here from a credit union, their own main phone number and navigated their phone tree. Set in the queue to see how long it would be, right? Experience still matters. Everybody still has experience folks at their credit union because experience matters. Some of you are even measuring it through net promoter scores. So let's talk about those friction points. And I really challenge you all to go out and experience it yourself. So how easy is it to navigate your menu? I've seen folks go from a very complex, because we want to get them to the caller to the right place, to very simple so that it's not hard to navigate. But now what's the opportunity? The caller will be transferred, that they've waited, they finally get to someone and they can't help them and have to go somewhere else. Or how long will you wait? What is the right time? Oftentimes you have an overflow provider at a certain increment in the queue. And what about, so that's how the member feels. What if we give answers faster, seamless handoffs to humans, right? And to the right human. We could allow them to self-serve any time of day. What if the answers given, regardless if I talk to Sally, Rob, or Joe, were consistent? Or the AI is also feeding from the same knowledge base that any of my employees are. So again, I'm driving consistency. I have faced that myself, right? I had a member go into one branch and they're charged for a debit card replacement. I had them going into another and it was waived, or how we treated third-party checks, or how we gave. And it is hard. How do you keep everybody up on the same source of truth? Really, really important. So, how many routine calls does your employee get? Like, I've got another balance, I got another payment. I really don't have to stretch my mind. I really don't have to be a consultant. But do I want to come in every day and just do that? Or do I really want to make a difference in a member's life? So let's think about that. No time for advising. I'm just churning, churning, churning. Pressures, just that pressure then to be the expert when I do get that one call where I need to really lean in. Do I have the information? Where was the information? Remember the 3-ring binder days? I had one. Or they print out information. What if we could change all that and make it just easy and less friction for the employee? So not only for the member, but also for the employee. So let's think about what if we offloaded repetitive calls and really leaned in providing calls to the humans where humans are needed? What if we could improve consistency by giving them information and sources of truth? What if we can allow staff to focus on empathy and use judgment and again have a way to really gain their skills and upscale their skills? And then what if we could just spend more time building confidence versus just unloading and having them just run? What if we could really build their confidence? What would they do? I like to say that your employees and your members are your greatest sales team, not just certain salespeople, but every interaction is an opportunity for growth. Every opportunity for your callers or your members to learn from those employees who are excited to help them. So let's move into AI and trust. So we know that AI has value. How do we help you and help all the credit unions out there build trust? We even as an AI company understand the importance of that, important of having, all of our compliance, all of our due diligence in order. So one of the best practices always make sure that if you do have members interacting with AI and not humans, that we openly disclose that. You can also openly disclose that calls are being recorded or chats are being recorded. Up to you if you choose to do that. We also want to make sure we always have human escalation paths. That's really, really important. It's important we understand how AI works, how it handles data, how it monitors, and we continue to monitor it. Not just we don't understand it before go live, but even after go live. Are you partnering with someone who has information available at hand? Do you have controls, or is it all controlled by the third-party vendor? Really making sure that you have awareness. Vendor oversight ensures trust of the partners. Audit and compliance involvement ensures we can prove it. So it's not about really putting this in a bubble. It's about having cross-functional knowledge and information about that provider you're using and making sure that you can see and monitor information. So what does governance look like? Let's talk about that a little bit. It's really important in organizations to provide who owns the partnership, who owns the AI. AI can be among many areas, right? It could be a type of AI we provide, which is for internal, external services, right? Serving, creating better experiences, but you could be using it for underwriting it. You could be using it for BSA. You could be using it in lots of different ways, but you need to define the ownership of that partnership and that AI delivery. Have clear policies and guardrails. What are you all willing to do and what do you understand it to do? Ongoing monitoring again, really, really important. It's continuously monitoring and improving. Leadership really has to have visibility around its performance and understanding how it's performing, and making sure you're working with a company that just doesn't deliver and set it. Like Posh, we have a full partnership strategy and plan. Your success is our success, right? And we're all monitoring it and watching it closely. So it's really important, regular reporting and leadership and the board. What's happening with your AI partners? What results are you seeing? So again, there needs to be some level of governance. I've seen there's been governance committees AI committees and so forth. But here at Posh, where I work, we're willing to provide anything that's needed, make sure we train all of those, provide, the way to monitor and the outlooks and what to expect. Really, really important. So let's talk about measuring success beyond just cost savings. Important metrics here. And again, willing to have these side conversations, willing to talk to each and individual organization about, different use cases. What are things to solve? How could you use AI to solve that? What could you expect? What type of outcomes, that you could expect to have? So member satisfaction and resolution time. We talked about that earlier. What if I could call in? What if I could chat? What if I could get information 24/7, right? What if in some cases, and you'll see something that we're doing, what if you used AI to outreach to actually talk to or share information about CD renewals or about new indirect member onboarding, and you could eliminate those calls. You're being proactive. There's ways to do that as well. Call containment, but with quality is important. When we bring in a client, obviously design adoption is important, and there's two phases to that: design and communication. How do we work with you to design your use cases? What works best for you? What's around your policies and procedures, and then how do we communicate that type of change to your end users and internal users? Employee satisfaction really is important. So that's that we need to lean in there. Error reduction. How do we make sure, what we're leveraging is truly seeing error reduction from your employees? If we stop and think about it, the biggest errors that happen, or even fraud in most cases, is from a human to human. It still is from human to human. And then compliance and outcomes. Success with AI isn't just about saving money at the end of the day. It's about improving member satisfaction, resolving issues faster, containing calls with quality here, as I noted, supporting employees, reducing errors, and strengthening compliance. As experience doesn't improve alongside efficiency, we haven't succeeded. So that is our mission here at Posh when we work with our clients. So let's talk about practical starting points for leaders. Step one, use case analysis. I mentioned that several times. Happy to also help. Just think about all the different use cases. Where are you with employee onboarding, training, knowledge? What kind of first call resolution do you have? What's your wait times? What's your abandonment rates? Can I access you 24/7? There's lots of different things we can look at just to think about what are your top use cases, which might help define where to start. Let's talk about what would clear success metrics look like for you. Where are you today? What would you like to see? What it takes to get there. Cross-functional alignment is important. This AI isn't managed in a bubble. I mean, it will touch, we talked about it, compliance, risk, IT, the business users, the board. So really important for everybody to be in and understand. You still usually have a champion and a single owner, as I noted earlier, but still it's very cross-functional. There is a way to crawl, walk, run. Maybe identify what's the biggest ROI, the biggest impact, the least resources for deployment. There's different ways to look at it on where you might start, and that can be customized by individual institution, right? And even maybe, like I said, maybe it's like I need to solve X, and then let's go talk about what it would do to that. I want to solve for this too, but which one do I start with? Well, there's a couple of questions we could go through that are really, really important. And finally, we scale intentionally. We have lots of clients who have started with an internal assistant first because that's where they wanted to start with AI. That was their comfort. We've also had other clients start right into a voice solution because it had the largest ROI and impact. They couldn't scale their team any further. They had costly overflow. So again, it could be different for everybody. Happy to have those conversations. So summarizing a little bit more. So what do the most successful CUs do differently when they think about deploying AI? They treat it as a strategic capability, not just I need AI or hey, we should just start over here. It's really strategic. They involved compliance early. They really focus on two areas, member and employee impact. If we think of that, and I talked about several areas of friction for both of those sides, is a good place to hone in on. They invest into change management. It is a change. But partner with someone. I know, particularly myself, I do deployment strategy sessions for all of our oncoming clients. I do communication strategy sessions just to help us all think about removing the cheese of our members and particularly maybe our employees. How do we drive adoption? How do we announce it? How do we train them? That's equally important, right? We want everybody on board. Very, very important. And that goes right to the last one, as I just said, measure and communicate the wins. So I have seen particularly, we've rolled out an internal knowledge assistant, and we may roll out to the contact center specifically. Again, you can start your whole organization, you can start in a group. And I have seen how fast other departments have asked to get in on that win. I've had some quotes like the new knowledge assistant, which they named was the employee of the year. So you can make an impact to your employees and really invest in them with AI as well as your members. So really important there. We don't see AI replacing credit unions or even all of your employees. We really see it changing the way we deploy our employees. We still need credit unions. It's about really addressing the friction, advancing what you can do, driving those efficiencies, driving those growth opportunities so you can even do more and provide more to your members at the end of the day. So think about it, it's in two areas again, member experience, employee experience. Think about how many routine calls you're handling again. Think about going to zero hold times or bringing that hold time down. None of us have time to call and set in a queue. Think about not needing an overflow provider. Think about efficiently transferring. What if I can identify what the caller's calling about, not have them have to figure out through a complex menu or too simplified, which causes transfer, but we can do intelligent routing just based on conversations. And think about giving assistance 24/7. I don't know about you all, but I am pretty busy all week and I need to do things online. Now, of course, I use my online banking the best of anybody, but not everybody's there. Calls still happen. And again, you'll have those less complex. I kind of dare you to go back and look up your disposition codes or your wrap-up codes. I will bet, even though you have the best online banking platform, you still get a lot of balance transfer payment calls. What's your hours? How do I find a branch? I mean, how do I get a cashier's check? Let the AI support those and be consistent versus needing humans, and let humans be on disputes. Let them be on, I'm looking for a new HELOC. Let them be on things that make a difference. So that's interesting. A great question. What is the process you use to teach AI about our credit union? So easy to do these days. What we're going to do is teach them based on your processes and procedures, your website, your sources of truth, the information you already have out there that you're teaching your employees on. We can also teach the AI to use. We can actually just use the AI to source those documents for answers. But the great thing is, one of the things that we've done here at Posh is there might be areas of information that you always want to be very static. But you may want to use search my documents. There's different ways that you can leverage information, and it's up to you based on your comfort and controls. So employee experience, let's talk about that. What if we could give them the knowledge to scale faster? I know when I've hired folks for a contact center, not only did they have to go to the classroom, but then I had someone tethered to them on the phone, listening in, right? What if they had a buddy, an AI buddy that had all of your processes and procedures? They could ask questions at their fingertip. They're no longer, could they scale faster? Or what if you had a way to use AI to let them role play and practice those interactions versus waiting until they're live or just doing role play in a classroom? Think about changing that whole environment. And again, we could talk to you about those different ways and how they kind of work hand in glove. Again, easy access to procedures. You probably have an intranet. I'm probably doing a word search. I probably still need to go through and look at the 5 different documents, read the documents, and figure out what the answer is. That's time consuming, and most folks will stop doing that and just team chat someone or call someone or ask a friend. What if you could change that? Just thinking about that at the end of the day. again, giving them the source of truth and taking that source of truth and giving it to your AI, to your employees, and everybody using that same information would be very valuable. But building the confidence, if nothing else, starting with building the confidence of your employees so that they can handle more complex, that they do feel about what they're delivering and they can do it efficiently would be valuable at the end of the day. So I talked about in this process several different solutions, right? I talked about what if you call, what if you chat, what if an employee could access information? What if they could be trained differently? I could even talk about what if you could QA calls? What if you could really loop these all together? So just wanted to share an AI ecosystem. We've built this system. And again, you don't have to start with them all at one time. You could start with one that particularly solves a use case. It's your most predominant use case, and then move from there. But think about this. I want to paint this picture for you, especially leaders strategically. If you could outreach using AI to tell folks about the renewal on their CDs, or maybe how an indirect lending member needs to make their first payment, because I know I tried several different ways, a letter at a dealership, those type of things. But what if you could do that? And you could eliminate the need for calls. What if you then had a voice assistant that when they did call, intelligently routed, offered them easy, seamless access to their account? They didn't have to talk to an agent unless a human was needed based on the complexity of the need or conversation. And then once it went to an employee, they had a knowledge assistant that would help them with those complex. How do I do X? How do I do Y? And that same knowledge actually fed the AI assistant. And then what if you could QA those calls, including the assistance calls, to make tweaks? And then what if you had a training simulator that helped your folks really interact? I know for a fact folks don't talk about things that they're not comfortable with. I was talking to someone earlier about, they didn't talk about mechanical breakdown. It was too complex oftentimes. So how can I prepare them for those conversations? How can I give them a practice area that they can practice those interactions and get scored and then really build upon those skills? What if I could do that? And then you could couple that with digital web search, again, things that just help eliminate the need to call, getting information into your members' hands quicker, or potential members really, really fast. So let's share. I've talked a lot, but I wanted to put this out here. This is a quote from one of our clients, particularly, and you will see her online. You should seek her out online on LinkedIn. You will see her doing a lot of stuff around AI, not just with Posh AI, other AI organizations they use for different types of AI. But I love what she said here. We don't have an AI strategy, we have a business strategy. That strategy includes four goals: elevate member service, improve employee experience, increase operational efficiencies, and unlock growth. Doing nothing is riskier than doing something. And again, there's a place to start for everybody. And I know there's different risk tolerances or different use cases, but we can take all that into our advisory if somebody's interested in having a conversation. But I did want to share that. We have a lot of other quotes, case studies, those type of things that we can share if folks are looking to get comfortable. So I back into this. I've mentioned it many, many times. Here's a call to action. Don't wait for perfect. Focus on moments that matter for members and staff. I've said that many, many times. Build an automation strategy that aligns with your mission, right? Go back to your strategy again. Partner, test, and grow. So there is a crawl, walk, run. I've seen folks come in and say, I'm going to do simulator with the knowledge system, right? I'm going to train and I'm going to give them the knowledge, right? Because you can use the knowledge to help create the training simulations. I'm going to start member facing. That's my biggest use case right now. I'm going to start with digital, because if I can get folks to ask us questions via an AI chat, they're going to call us less, which is true. Or I have a moment of change happening. I'm moving from one online banking provider to another. We all know what that does to us. We get a ton of calls. Or I'm changing my core system, or I'm changing my telephony system, something of that sort. But be prepared for those planned changes or even the unplanned. What do you do today if you have a card breach and now you have an influx of calls, or you do a merger? You have an influx of calls. AI and having AI in place can be leveraged during those moments of change. So something to think about. But again, it's different for everybody. And we just want to make sure everybody knows that. And again, AI is the big word out there, and it can be overwhelming and it's almost worn out. I wanted to take liberty today just to share with you that there is a path for everybody, and how, from a leadership perspective, to strategically think about where to start. And again, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'd be happy to get on a coffee chat just to talk about different use cases, have you think about your numbers, those type of things, and different ways to think about them, so that you can make a plan for your organization. So just a little bit about Posh, because I thought that was important since we do AI. It's the power of one. I've mentioned this multiple times, is your knowledge is your source of truth. Our objective here at Posh is to use that to feed any of our AI solutions. That is the trajectory that we're on today. And again, starting with your knowledge is always a great place to start. So maybe that might be with the knowledge assistant. But again, everybody's in a different place. But we have multiple solutions that we can consider, both again on the employee side and the member facing side. I think what's really important though, and I talked about this a little bit, when you do look at providers, is going to be very important for you to think about, what kind of access do you have? How do you measure metrics? How do you see your metrics? How do you see your performance? How do you see your calls? Is it in a place that, you have to put tickets in to get changes, or do you have access to make some changes? And what does that look like? I think that's going to be very important. We're very proudful here of our Posh portal. So we have a portal, and then, and again, knowledge is our core to feed information on. And and the integrations, right? We have all of our own integrations to telephony, into core systems, and those kind of things are also. That tripped me up when I first was looking at AI. For some reason, I was thinking about, I need an integration to my card system. I need an integration over here, and I need an integration over there. And if you just start with the core and the things that you do in your core, however, we are fast following with what we call operating procedures. Think about taking the basic and even doing more in AI, like appointment scheduling, integration to Meridian Link. What if I could do loan status easily? What if I could collect application information and push it to you? Again, AI, there's so many opportunities, the sky is the limit, but it is about getting on that train and working towards those things that you're really comfortable with, so that you're in the motion. You're already in one of the train cars moving along, and then moving upstream with the capabilities that are out there. So that's going to be really important to everybody.
Thanks for joining today, and everybody have a great rest of your day.
Thank you all. Have a great one.